And it turns out the villain of the Watchmen is going to be, and this is going to be a shocker to y'all, I know, I hope you're all sitting down.
White supremacy.
It sounds like a complete and total disaster, and this is what's happening to our entertainment.
I guess it's Watchmen cuz masks. That's basically, it's Watchmen cuz masks and some crap from Watchmen grafted on and debased.
So, I'm not exactly sure how to start this video. In all honesty, it feels like it's been days now that I've stared at my keyboard, unsure of the words I should use in order to truly express how I feel about watching HBO's latest attempt at branching out into the world of comics. Or more specifically, HBO's latest attempt at branching out into the world of Alan Moore's most notorious maxi series. But at the end of the day, after all my contemplation, there's still only one word that comes to mind, and that's Watchmen. Good old Rorschach-wearing, Blue Man Group radiating, real-life superhero sporting Watchmen. However, Alan Moore's 1986 hit isn't exactly what one might call unknown. On quite the contrary, it's one of the most popular and renowned comic books to ever exist. So how does one reboot a comic book beloved by fans all over the globe? Or yet, a better question. How does one reboot a comic book that once made waves in the industry for not being an attempt by Hollywood to bring the dead back to life? You see, reinventing the Watchmen wheel seems particularly impossible in this case when the property at hand made its initial waves for being none other than original. Seems like quite the oxymoron, doesn't it? Personally, I think this is where the majority of the problems begin to arise for most people with Damon Lindelof's new interpretation of the beloved comic. However, it stands apparently obvious upon first viewing that Watchmen the TV series is not an attempt to directly adapt the pages of Moore's imagination. And even though both the original and new takes showcase a reality where the mere presence of American superheroes is able to change history itself, Lindelof's version is without a doubt a complete 180 from the direct adaptations we've become accustomed to. A complete 180 from something like Zack Snyder's effort to recreate the Maxi series in a mere 2-hour theatrical production back in 2009. But what makes this different is that this time the creators are actually trying to say something. In true Watchmen fashion, the TV series is attempting not only to touch on subjects that can relate to comics, but to society, politics, and to the world as a whole. But what exactly is the show trying to say? And is the messaging lost in translation somewhere along the way? Perhaps, when all is said and done, Watchmen just isn't the right vessel to carry this message along in the first place. Or maybe, just maybe, it is. You see, I can understand the initial hate. At first glance, this show definitely comes off as just another corporate attempt to spread forced identity politics into mainstream entertainment by using an already popular IP as the flagship to do so. And when pandering to the loudest 2% of Twitter seems to be the go-to for Hollywood executives these days, I can most definitely understand the hypersensitivity and reluctance from those who are just simply tired of blatant propaganda taking the place of good storytelling in films over the last half-decade. So roll obligatory montage of Mary Sue-infused content, Captain Marvel, Star Wars the sequel trilogy, the CW's Batwoman, etc. No, but in all seriousness, when channels like Geeks and Gamers and Nerdrotic share their displeasure with the show, I can ultimately sympathize and respect their points of view. However, to me, with each and every episode that's been released over the last few weeks, this show proves to be nothing like the before mentioned. The main character Angela, aka Sister Night, is black and female, yes. And the story pertains to a heightened version of the modern day racism that certainly does exist. But the story is there. And at least to me, that's what truly matters most. Nothing feels forced, no pun intended, or like straight up pandering. Plus, the story doesn't bend the laws of nature and logic to progress itself further for the benefit of the main protagonist. The characters have actual traumas, backstories, and the actions they take throughout the course of the show make sense in relation to who they are as a person. And even if that's not what would be the most quote-unquote best or most heroic choice to make, the world feels real, and so do the people. I believe that if the comic book took place, there could have been a specific chain of events that occurred which would have led us to the future with these characters. And I think that's what entices me most about this series. It's that they follow Alan Moore's formula, but don't copy it exactly. You believe that his story was real in this world and it isn't just something conjured up from the pages of a comic book. You believe that these characters are now dealing with the runoff from those events. And when you can find slight nods and gestures to the original book all over the place, that's never a bad touch. From the names on buildings to the title of books that people can be seen reading on screen, even specific characters from the book like Silk Spectre that are brought back to flesh out the world that much more, to make it feel that much more lived in. Now look, there's no denying that Watchmen has always been political, and straying away from such content would ultimately result in creating something that isn't very Watchmen at all. So when having the repercussions of Rorschach's journal being sent into a notably right-wing publication at the end of the graphic novel begin to unfold, that is what ultimately lays the groundwork for the world that our TV show's heroes are going to find themselves in. And it makes sense. You see, how this extreme racial tension could be built in the exact same universe all these years later was a huge question I had leading into the first episode. However, the answer to that question was something I never imagined. Something most people never would. And now I imagine that's what hurts the most. The worst type of people have turned Rorschach's words and more noticeably his image into their symbol of prejudice. And Rorschach, being the most universally beloved character from the original issues, makes that an extremely hard pill to swallow. Perhaps harder than it would have been if it was merely Night Owl or Ozymandias who were the source of all this injustice. How could the man who only saw things in black and white have his ideology spread and misinterpreted by a group who can only see half? This group of racists is more or less just the Klan with a different label slapped on it, now undergoing the title of the 7th Cavalry. And as corny and as forced as that may sound in today's climate, it really is only the underlying issue that runs throughout the series. It's the starting point for the other controversies and self-revelations that take place. And it turns out that they may not just be a group of racists at all. So honestly, I think after you give this show a chance, if you don't judge a book by its cover, you'll find so many layers to be peeled back and so much thought and intelligent writing put into the show that this could ultimately be one of the best shows of 2019. It takes the type of risk that I wish The Mandalorian would, but never could because of Disney. And this is without even mentioning the amazing cinematography and editing that takes place. Some of these episodes have the smoothest transitions I've ever seen. And altogether, I'm extremely happy that I ended up giving the show a chance. If you disagree with me, well, then that's perfectly fine. I'm not here to tell people what to think or how to feel, but I am here to tell you that it's worth the chance. At the end of the day, you should form your own opinion on the show, because this show is exactly what I want out of television. And hopefully, it's what you want too. That's where I'm gonna wrap this one up, guys. I want to say thank you so much for coming out and watching my video. I know I haven't posted in about 2 weeks, so I want to say thank you to everyone who stood by and waited. I was having a little bit of a lack of creativity, so here I'm going to be coming back hard with the new videos. I want to give a big thank you to the people who come back and like and comment and support every single video. You guys mean the world to me. If you could share this with everyone you know, all of your friends, family, people who would be interested in this content, I would really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. You guys are what keeps me going here on YouTube, since they don't show a lot of love to smaller creators like myself. Other than that, I just want to say I love you guys. As always, it's been your boy Digital Ark. I'll see you around next time.